We can wait for a few more minutes and then we can start. If anybody wishes to look at any particular shloka, anything you have in mind, we can look at that. We stopped at shloka number 32 of the
30.
third. Yes, Ji. All right. We'll just start from 33 then. Hari Om Savitri Ji.
Hari Om,
Hari
Hari
Om.
Om,
Namaste.
Hari Om.
Ji. We'll just wait for another minute and then begin. Hari Om Dr. Poonam Ji. Hari Om Swati Ji. Namaste. All right, I think now it is time we can begin with the invocation. Saraswati Namastubhyam Varade Kamarupini Vidyarambham Karishyami Siddhe Bhavatu Me Sada Vasudevam Sutam Devam Kamsachanuramardanam Devaki Paramanandam Krishnam Vande Jagadgurum Mukam karoti vachalam pangum langayate girim yatkrupatamaham vande paramanandamadhavam. Hari Om. Hari Om. So we begin. Before we begin, as usual, can somebody re-establish the link? What is it that we have covered so far? We have stopped at shloka number 32. Anything you can recollect? Yes, please. Yes, please. Anything that what we saw last.
Yesterday, in the last session, we saw that we become vulnerable because of our desires.
Ji, ji.
That is one thing aspect we
Ji, ji. So yes,
discussed.
ji. So the importance of letting go of desires is also to allow us to become free. The Gita talks about Mukta Sangha. It's a free union, something which is where you are not bound. Desires sometimes bind us. They make us vulnerable. Human nature already is vulnerable. Why do we want to add more vulnerability to it by attaching ourselves to desires? So that is one more reason probably we should not have attachments, because then we are prone to be manipulated. So yes, that is one more thing. Yes, Srinivas ji, anybody would like to add further? Because again, humans have desires. So how do we let go of desires? One, Krishna has given a good hint, and yes, anybody can recollect that. Anything, because we have
We
mind. Yeah.
also spoke
Yes.
about how to deal with people and find a middle path without creating a divide.
Ji. Na buddhi bhedam.
We also said,
Yes,
yeah,
please.
we also said that all actions have come from Prakriti.
Ji. Yes.
And we also spoke about follow your action with Shraddha.
Okay, yes, so Shraddha's concept was first introduced. So far in the Gita, we have been first time introduced to Shraddha, and Shraddha is the secret. Shraddha is the easy thing. It makes everything simple. Shraddha will help you for, we'll see all 18 chapters, Shraddha's benefits will start appearing now. But one thing is your desires also, your attachments, all of these. Have faith, have faith. We saw have faith in something, any one thing, at least if not in the divine, at least have in yourself. For an atheist, at least an atheist must have faith in himself or herself. Otherwise, without Shraddha, what is going to be there? So, and again, sometimes it's better. Some wiser ones understand that individual is limited. So instead of keeping Shraddha in an individual, have trust in that higher force. Those who have got Sakshatkar have actually got experience and pramadas of the realization of the divine. But that apart, so we saw one thing, Shraddha in the higher purpose, Shraddha in the greater good. All these factors can help us not, be trapped by our desires or get manipulated easily. So that was one thing we saw. Another thing I think Swatiji talked about was this is one more important aspect about na buddhi bhedam. Do not create a divide in the minds of people. People are going to be having different perspectives from the beginning. It is there. There is Arjuna. There is also Duryodhana. Now Krishna did not go and give Gita Gyan to Duryodhana. Why? He did not ask for it. He did not want it. So if Krishna is not going and teaching Gita, I don't think we have. Many times once we start, I had this bad habit. After studying the Gita, I somehow wanted to make my friends also. I was like, this is very beautiful, it's very good. So I took a lot of efforts. And I saw the more I take the efforts, the more they're running away from the text. So this was somewhere I understood maybe this is some kind of unnecessary rajasek or some kind of ankar inside of me only. Instead, let that moment come. And then there are friends who are interested. Later on, I could see they are themselves interested in wanting to know about the Gita. So this is something like that. Do not create a divide. Our job is not to create a divide in people's minds. Already there are so many divisions. Instead, your aim is one. So what is our aim? Our aim is one, that is Loka Sangraha. Krishna has already given that. He says, become like Raja Janaka. He does not want everybody to become, renounced sages. If that is the case, who's going to take care of the world? All the asuras only will be ruling. That's why we have even sages leaving their spiritual path and coming into the field of action. So this aspect Krishna has told Loka Sangraha. So let our aim be Loka Sangraha. Any action can become Loka Sangraha. A smallest word that we speak to the biggest deed that we do. Or even sometimes thoughts have their effect. So these things, let us focus on Loka Sangraha. That's a great motivation. If at all somebody is feeling, I don't have Shraddha. I don't have Shraddha. I cannot trust in a God I cannot see or feel. I don't feel right now presence of God. I don't see God. I don't want to believe in God. All right, then have Shraddha in something. What? Have Loka Sangraha. I want to better the world. The world that I see is not good. I need to clean it up. Whatever I can. I can start with my own backyard if I want to, but I have that. So if that is a drive, it is not a desire fuel drive. It is not a limited finite drive. Loka Sangraha is like an infinite drive, an infinite source of inspiration. Great people have done brilliant works driven by what? People wonder where do they get the strength? Well, sometimes that strength is the strength of the spirit. They do not realize that. But when it is driven by Loka Sangraha, Krishna also does not mind. He says, just go ahead, that will take you ahead. So these were the things that we saw. Then Krishna went on. One more thing, Shraddha was introduced in. Having Shraddha, Krishna said, consecrate your actions. Consecrate your actions to me. So again, Mad Arpita, Mano Buddhir, like that, or your mind, your Buddhi, your every action. And the best example, I think, is maybe Janmashtami only. Children get the chance of tasting the most beautiful laddus. Why? The mother has made laddus for children also, but the mother makes it, no, this is for Krishna. Janmashtami is for Krishna. These laddus are for Krishna, so they become much more tastier because they are offered for the divine. So this offering makes a work. When somebody cooks, I am eating for myself. I have observed myself cook also. I cook very horrible food. I won't serve that to anybody when I'm cooking it for myself. But when I offer it somebody else, I'm going to cook. Then I try to make it. Dressing is also made to it looks good. While serving it should, the which plate should come. All of that because when you offer, you have this tendency to pour your love into it and make it much better. And Krishna says, Shraddha, Shraddha, offer your actions to me. Why? Well, he says, just ready. He says, Arjuna, just offer. Do not get in this panic mode. What will happen? He says, you will become free from karma bandhana. This is the Vedantic truth of the Upanishad also. Kurvanneveha karmani jijiveshachatam samaha. Many people get annoyed with this Isha Upanishad, especially the second verse, because they all want to run away from the world. This second verse tells, try to live for 100 years serving the divine. This is the only way for mankind, where despite performing actions, no karma will bind. Na karma lipyate nare. Means not no karma will bind. It's like somehow you've got some kind of, it's like getting a raincoat in the rain. You're never going to get wet. So like that, karma bandhanas will not bind you, and this is the way you need to live for an entire lifespan. Swastina Indro Vruddhashrava Swastina Pusha Vishwaveda Swastina Tarksho Arishthanemihi Swastino Bruhaspatir Dadatu. Give me that good, great, strong bodies. Let me Sthire Rangai Sushtuvan Swastanubhi. It is just that I want strong bodies, strong mind. Why? I want to serve the divine. So why not? Why should we allow Aurangzeb to live for 100 years? Why not allow Shivajis also? So many Shivajis should live for 100 years. What great transformation they can bring. So that way, taking care of ourselves, taking care, and best way is if you offer yourself to the divine, offer your actions. That concept has been introduced. Whether or not Arjuna has agreed, we have to see. We have already seen different marks. People have probably a good idea of what's going through Arjuna's mind, how much he is going to really connect with, or maybe he's connecting but not really understanding. Something like data you get from Google, it's just data and information. That information has to translate into understanding. In the understanding, when it comes to realization, then we can say Sakshatkar. So Arjuna has not got that Sakshatkar yet, but maybe he's in the right direction. So 32nd shloka we stopped where Krishna said, but those who do not follow these instructions, or those who do not understand this, he says they will suffer. This is not a crime, this is not a sin. Or what is he saying? He's not saying I am cursing these people because you're not listening to me. It's just a consequence. Just allow your desire to run astray, then you see all the negative consequences. Sometimes you cannot even course correct also. So this aspect, he says those who do not follow this, do not understand this, then they are going to have a unfortunate bandhana of karma, and they are going to go through this cycle. One person said they wanted to enter into a relationship in spite of being in one more relationship, and they said I am not feeling guilty about it, and can I go ahead because I want to follow my desires. This is something I have needs, and they wanted some kind of sanction from me that yes, go ahead, it is all right. No, this I could not. Obviously, it is not something which was right. So I just said, all right, if you wish to go ahead, you can go ahead, but understand the consequences that will come because of it. If you are ready to bear the consequences, then do those wrong karmas, and then that consequences nobody wants. They just want without consequences. That is not the case in the world as well. Your karmas have their consequences. Krishna says only when you are doing it in a state of yajna, or when you are doing it as an offering to the divine, somehow something happens and these actions suddenly get channeled in the right direction. We will see later on that swalpam apyasya dharmasya trayate mahato bhayat is what the Gita says. Little actions also, when done rightly, they can prevent great dangers. How is that possible also? That we'll see later, but there is this metaphysical truth of karma also, which is sometimes not visible on the surface. So 33rd shloka, let us go on. सदृशं चेष्टते स्वस्याः प्रकृतिर्ज्ञानवानपि प्रकृतिं यान्ति भूतानि निग्रहः किं करिष्यति. So yes, Swatiji shared about Prakriti also. So we have a Prakriti, we all have our own Swabhava, one nature. Prakriti makes us act according to Prakriti. So that is one thing. So what should I do? Can we say? Anybody has heard of Durvasa? Sage Durvasa, Rishi Durvasa? Anything you know about him? Have you just anything? Was he a very quiet, peaceful Rishi?
No,
He was a very short-tempered person, very
short-tempered.
short-tempered rishi.
Short-tempered.
But how can you call a short-tempered
Always
person
cursing
Rishi? Rajeshri ji, but how can we call a short-tempered person a Rishi then?
No, but I think he was highly elevated.
He was elevated in his
Uh,
consciousness, and if you look
yeah.
at his stories, his anger
And
also,
so his
his anger
words
was
always had the
directed,
power to curse.
and his
Huh?
anger was also directed. His anger started so many stories, is it not? He had a
Yeah.
alignment with the divine consciousness, but that was his nature. You cannot say Durvasa Maunam or Durvasa Shantir Bhavatu. No, Jamadagni will be like Jamadagni. His son Parshuram also will be like Parshuram. You cannot say be like Sri Ram to Parshuram. Is it not? So Swabhava is there. Each person has, according to Prakriti, the stamp of Swabhava is there. So this is the nature of Prakriti and Guna. But these are all great ones who have transcended. They are not, the remote is in their hands. They know what they are doing. Many times that remote is not in our hands when we are in the force of our anger, so we cannot do divine works that time. These were the ones who were using their nature. So Krishna is understanding and saying that, see, everybody has one swabhava. Let us see. 33rd one, 33rd shloka. Even the knowledgeable person always in life acts and as per one's own nature when he interacts. When all living creatures by their natures are bound in its suppression, what truth can be found? So again, Krishna says, see, don't suppress your inner nature. We cannot, there's no truth in suppression. Because inner nature is like that. Each person is going to be in a particular way. I remember when I was in school, there was one very, Mohan, my friend's name. He was very calm, so calm that he would never get irritated. And I had taken up a divine responsibility of trying to irritate him. But no, I failed because no matter what, he would just smile, he would be quiet, and that was his nature. And I was like, wow, what a nature! Maybe I should now learn to that from him because that was his nature. But then that is the nature a person is born with. You cannot ask a person to completely transform the inner swabhava. Nature must be transformed, yes, but the inner swabhava, each one will have their stamp. So there is no truth in its suppression, is what Krishna is saying. He says, see, every living being, because of the Prakriti and the Guna. Guna is like a software which is running inside the every hardware of the people. So this Prakriti and Gunas, there is this nature, and this connection makes people behave in different ways. So there is something. You don't have to suppress your nature. So this is again difficult. One side he says don't allow your desires to go. Another side he says don't suppress nature, because it's a very fine line. But one thing is, what is this? It becomes very clear in the next shloka. Because what?
Krishnadev,
Yes, Jeet.
can we say it like your direct your thoughts in a particular way?
Direct your thoughts according to your inner nature is what we can see. So something chor chori se jaye, hera feri se nahi. Something like that. So whatever nature is there in that individual, you will have to work with that. A person who is peaceful natured itself will have to understand. Maybe at times he will have to show his aggression also. But overall his nature is that way. He should understand that and try to work according to. He cannot work in an opposite way. So this thing is there. Let us see the next shloka. Likes and dislikes. How do we deal with it? Krishna says, Indriyasyendriyasyarthe raga dvesho vyavasthitau tayorna vashamagachetau yasya paripanthinau. Likes and dislikes arise out of the senses, and their emergence one cannot avoid. But one must not fall prey to their pretenses, else progress on the spirit's path is destroyed. So he says, one side he says, don't suppress. Each of us have our likes, each of us have our dislikes, which is natural. We are human beings. Sadhana does not mean we have to become stone. Human beings on the spiritual path should remember Krishna all the time. Krishna did not lose his traits which were there. There is this. He is what we can say, full of love. He's got all his emotions also, and yet he is detached. He has not become a stone, or he's somebody who says he's cold-hearted, and he's not. It's not the case. We see him. He's displaying all of his emotions. He's actually experiencing all of them, and yet holding the highest relations. That is the ideal that we see in front of us. Krishna gave the second ideal as himself only. He said, see, I don't have any other duties towards the world, yet I fulfill all of them, sun or rain. He first gives Janaka as example, then he gives his own. But how much should we accept our likes? How much should we accept our dislikes? Because Krishna says likes and dislikes are normal. We'll have our liking, we'll have our disliking. It's okay to have these preferences. But getting carried away by them, that is the biggest danger. If you are allowing, sometimes people's likes and dislikes decide their life. I remember a person just because of his liking for a particular girl, he left the country to go for higher studies. Now, because that girl was in that study, it was not for his passion for pursuing higher studies. Later on, it did not work out for him. But now he says, no, no, he doesn't understand that it was because of that. Now he feels it was because of his conviction for the subject he didn't even know at that time when he was in college. He says, no, I always had this aspiration. But this is when you are driven, allowing your likes and dislikes to go in a particular direction. Sometimes God uses our likes and dislikes to make us move ahead, but not always. Sometimes, just as constructive things can happen, destructive things can also happen because of our likes and dislikes. A simpler example I would say is my sister had a strong disliking for curd. That gave me a lot of joy because I would keep the curd very next to her plate only while eating, and that would create a weird expression, facial expression from her. She would say, "Move it away." I would not do that. All this was fine in childhood. But growing up after her engineering, and she came to meet me at my guru's place, and my guru, he was making fresh butter, and curd is butter is also like a cousin of curd, is it not? So people who don't like curd don't like butter or any other milk related products. So when she came near him, he just told her, open your mouth, and he put butter inside her mouth. And the face expression she made, she was like very disgusted. Another day, panchamrit was offered. Now panchamrit has curd in it, one of the five ingredients. So panchamrit is something which is sacred, and it's also very nice. And when you receive it from some very reverend person, you take it with that love and respect. So she took that, but then she put it in her mouth, and then she realized there's curd in it, and so her face again, she had a contorted expression. But then she got very disgusted with herself. She said, I've been given with so much love, and look at my face expression changing like this. This is not right. I'm allowing my disliking to take too much control over me. This is not something I want to. And then she started working on it because she felt this is not right. And Krishna says the same thing, that you likes and dislikes, if you allow them to take you for a ride, then even spiritual progress is going to be destroyed. You will not be able to go on the spiritual path, because that is transcending all dualities. Now unfortunately I have to share my curd with my sister, because she starts eating, she's not having that hatred, because that sometimes too much liking. I like only this. If this is not there, I will not go ahead. Sometimes people have expectations even on the spiritual path, that I must progress as if it's some kind of game. Level 1 to level 2, level 2 to level 3. It's not the case. We can go from 1 to 100 if Krishna wishes, and from 100 he can put you to 0 also when Ahankar comes into place. So this aspect, likes, dislikes, keep it away, Krishna says, because if you allow them, you are going to destroy your chance of progress. He goes on, Shreyan Swadharmo Vigunaha Paradharmat Swanushtitat Swadharme Nidhanam Shreyah Paradharmo Bhayavaha. So big danger, Krishna says, Paradharmo Bhayavaha. Arjuna suddenly deciding to run away from his Swadharma. There is nothing great in it. It is the biggest danger for Arjuna also as an individual. What kind of life if he survives? Chances of survival are already very less when you have dropped your weapons and going to meet your opponents. But now he is going against his dharma. Even till his last minute, he is going to have these troubles. Many times people don't realize that people go against their inner nature. One participant, she shared her experience. She was for 17 years in the wrong sector. In her heart, she wanted to do a particular, she wanted to be in the service sector, but she was not in that. She was in the technical sector, and for a long time, she says, I was earning very good salary. But she says somehow, and she was in the US. She is in the US right now, but she's taken the shift some years back. But she says 17 years, every night I had this same pressure on my head. What am I doing? Why am I doing? And I could not bring myself to take that decision. But she says after that, she says the most satisfactory moments of life are when I'm doing this work only. My salary is reduced, she says. It is much lesser. And my social circle also suddenly changed. My friends who were now earlier with me, friends, they say you are now in a lower job, and they have avoided talking to me. But it doesn't matter for me now, because I am doing what is my swadharma, what I understand according to my own nature. And Krishna says it's better to serve, and even nidhanam is fine while you are doing your duty, than letting go of your swadharma. He goes on, working for oneself, even though faultily, is much better than to serve perfectly under someone else's fetter. So even for your own self, you are working. It's all right. It's all right. You're making mistakes. It's not such a big grand work. It's all right. It's not grandiose. but you're following your passion, you're following your inner spirit, your inner calling. That's better than becoming a slave of a much greater enterprise where you don't have your own swadharma. Your swadharma is getting crushed. And Krishna goes on, even if death comes while performing one's natural duty, it's better, as serving others is a perilous vulnerability. So holding, even if death comes, there was a very nice photo of one young soldier from Ukraine. Now he is saying, I don't mind. I have read the Gita. He says, this is a story of a boy from the young man from Ukraine. He's an Ukrainian only. He quotes the shloka of Krishna, saying that no, it is my swadharma. This is how I don't mind going to my end, experiencing this because this is what I live for. Now, God forbid anything bad happens. Hopefully, their heads of states will find a solution soon. But whatever this is, this the soldiers understand, the Kshatriyas understand. But our Arjuna is emotional, and in emotions, our buddhi goes on vacation. That has happened to Arjuna, and his emotions have taken control. He is not understanding what his swadharma is. Krishna very clearly points this out. But Arjuna is having a question immediately after this. Krishna has concluded with this point that even death is better if you follow your swadharma. Arjuna asks one question. Let us look at the question. We'll look at the validity of the question also. Is it valid? Arjuna uvacha. अथ केन प्रयुक्तोऽयं पापं चरति पुरुषः अनिच्छन्नपि वार्ष्णेय बलादिव नियोजितः. Arjuna asked, so, what is it that provokes man to sin and act against his will, thus against his own kin? Wherefrom does this force arise to rebel? O descendant of Vrishni, please tell. Because you are talking about Swadharma, inner feeling, then what is this inner feeling in people who are doing sin is what Arjuna is asking. He says, see, what is it that is provoking man to do sin? He's going against his own inner human nature. Sometimes we hear stories of people doing absolutely inhuman works. We wonder what is this. Sometimes people say, is God away there also or not? What is this? People do such kind of things. And Arjuna is asking the same question. So, nature, you are talking Krishna. What is this nature inside of people which is making them sin then? Why are they going against their own human beings? Why are people like Duryodhana born only, or why are they behaving the way they are doing? And where does this force come inside? If there is a pure inner nature inside, where do they get the force inside to rebel against this inner nature and do wrong things? How do they crush their conscience if that conscience is there inside everyone? How is it? He says, oh descendant of Vrishni, oh Krishna, oh Varshneya, please tell me, he says. Now this question, how is Arjuna's question? Is it a good one? Is it a right one? Yes? Is it logical?
Because we sometimes like kids also ask about like the difference between good and bad when you tell them something.
Yeah.
So they ask, right? So
Yeah.
how do you define? How do I differentiate whether this is good or bad? If I'm playing with somebody, if I'm talking to somebody, or if I'm doing some act,
Hmm.
how do I define that? So that's the question that like kids
So,
also ask. The adults
okay.
give it different, but kids
Okay,
they
Deepti
ask.
ji. Ji. Deepti ji is saying it's valid, and children also have this sometimes. So, yes, anybody else would like to share their perspective on this question, because his question is pretty like his arrow only, pretty direct to the point. He says, inner swabhava, then how does anybody understand, get that force to crush the inner swabhava and behave in wrong ways? Why do they do sin? Is this not a question many of us have had in our lives? Why do people do like this? Yes?
Our actions are driven by our desires. Here
Yes.
again, come back to the desires.
Okay. Yes, Srinivasanji. So, okay. So I think these actions are driven by desires. So this question is a valid one. Is it what he is saying? Dr. Srinivasji has already given the answer which Krishna is going to be saying. Yes, Dr. Poonamji, you were adding something.
Yes, I was saying the same thing. Desires are
The
there and
reason
they are
they,
guiding us, they are controlling
they are
us.
controlling us. So maybe sometimes people are not in control of their self when they allow this desire. I don't know what happened to me. I was angry. So you should excuse everything I did when I was angry. That's not possible. Karmas are done.
Fit of rage.
Yeah, fit of rage. That's a word which they say. But what fit of rage is coming into some people only, and why it's not coming into everybody, if that's a common. So this is the nature inside of people, and then some are allowing and cultivating some natures inside of them as well. This is the problem. That is why sadhana, that is why yoga needs to be followed. So we remove all these, it's like in gardening also, you'd want to remove the weeds. Like that, yoga is for that. So let us go on. Krishna answers. He says, yes, that's a great question. Krishna doesn't get offended at all. You can ask him any question, he goes ahead. Always. Shri Bhagavan Uvacha. Kama esha, krodha esha, rajo guna samudbhavaha, mahashano mahapapma, vidhyena miha vairinam. It is desire and its furious sibling anger. Born from the quality rajas, they are related to one another. All ensnaring and all polluting, they cause life to go in vain. These are the two great enemies that ought to be slain. So Krishna says these are the two enemies, he says. First two enemies of mankind only are this. They are causing the force inside of human beings to do all the sin. So Krishna says we are all immaculate on the inside. We are all having this beautiful spirit on the inside. Yet look at all the things that we do. Well, this is something, this is that some software error, some virus inside of our software. Like that, Raja Guna has been introduced. We have been told about Gunas. We have been talked about Prakriti. Prakriti is probably a software maker, and the software that is the product that is sold is the Gunas. And these Gunas we know are three types of Gunas: Rajas, Tamas, and Sattva. So this first introduction of Rajas has taken place right now, and Krishna says it is Rajas that is causing the force inside of a person to rebel against the inner purity and do wrong things, to perpetuate sin. Here he says it is desire and its furious sibling anger. Kama and Krodha both appear together only. Anger also cannot be satisfied, desire also cannot be satisfied. A person gets the kind of addiction to getting angry, anything and everything in the world would get angry. Oh, the fan got on, angry. Oh, the fan got off, again angry. Because that nature has been cultivated, anger is now taking control of possession of that individual. Same is the case with desire. People run after desire, lust for desire again and again. They try thinking it will get satisfied, but it never gets. It's like a unquenching thirst which will remain. So this is what Krishna is saying. They are related to one another. They are originating from what is called in Gita the Rajas, Swabhava inside, Rajas Guna. They are all ensnaring and all polluting. They cause life to go in vain. These are the two greatest enemies that are to be slain. It is not Duryodhana, it is not the Kauravas who are the first enemies that have to be slain. It is these two enemies on the inside. We don't realize our enemy is inside. The enemy within has to be first removed before you go out after the enemies outside. Same thing here we see. These are the enemies, you have to slay them, is what Krishna is saying. They are all ensnaring, all polluting. If you go back in life, your best moments, if they are ruined by anger, you will see that why did this anger come in place? If that anger was not there, how much beautiful. I was unnecessarily angry, or that person was unnecessarily angry. That moment was ruined because of this. Same is the case with desire also. Desire makes us do things. So the problem of being made, we like to be free. Why should we allow something else to control us? We are not puppets in the hands of these forces. So that is why, one more reason why we should enter into sadhana, we should practice sadhana of the ancient rishis. Why they prescribed it is because you are in control, your life, your moments. Why should you allow these forces to dominate you? But these forces not just dominate, they puppeteer you into doing the worst sins. They are the only problem. The enemy has to be removed. So in the sin also, the reason of sin in people is this. You remove that, they'll stop doing the sin as well. Probably that is the root cause of everything. Krishna goes on. He says, Dhume na vriyate vahnir yatha darsho malena cha yatholvena vruto garbhaha tatha tena tadam avrutam tatha tena dam avrutam. Just as fire is masked by smoke and dust, or like the embryo is sheathed within the amniotic crust. Look at the example, simile that Krishna gives. In that time, they are using about Garbha and all as if this knowledge, probably there was no gynecology field established according to modern science then. But no, they are able to use that as an example. Krishna says, just as first as a fire. Fire is masked by smoke and dust. Many times the brilliant fire also is covered by a smoke. This gives trouble to firefighters also because they cannot really gauge how powerful the fire is because so much smoke covers it. So just like how fire is covered by its own smoke and dust, from where is it coming? It is only the source of the smoke, but that smoke only is covering the brilliance of the fire. Just like that, just like the embryo, is sheathed within the amniotic crust. Inside the garbha, we cannot see from outside what is there inside. Just like that, Krishna is saying, in this similar manner and precise, knowledge is hidden by an outer disguise. Even knowledge is then covered by disguise. We do not understand the truth. Truth is hidden in the same manner, just like how fire is hidden by its smoke, or how in a child is sheathed inside the womb. One is a child is hidden. This simile is also there in the Vedas. Also, the mother is bearing the child and hidden from the world. It is actually a conception of birth of a new consciousness, some things which are yet to manifest. The symbolism is very strong, and that is why in the Vedanta or in the Upanishads they speak about understanding and unraveling the hidden truth, because that truth is there in the world, yet it is hidden, it is not clear. And the Upanishadic verse actually goes on, Hiranmayena patrena satyasyapi tam mukham Tattvam Pushanam Apavruno Satya Dharmaya Drishtet. Show the way for Satya Dharma. So even truth, Hiranmayena Patrena Satyasyapihitam Mukham. Truth is hidden by a golden lid. For us, gold is everything, is it not? So gold is supposedly the one of the symbolism of something which is very great and true. But this Vedantic Rishi says even that truth is hidden by a golden lid. They call upon the divine force and strength. Give me that strength. Give me some kind of great hammer like Thor's hammer, and so I can break that lid, and then Satya Dharma will be visible. That Satya Dharmaya Drishte. So even knowledge can be hidden by these desires and raga. That is how these two, the desire and the anger, they can cover the knowledge, is what Krishna is saying. Krishna goes on, Avrutam jnanametena jnanino nitya kama rupena kaunteya dushpurena nalena cha. Knowledge is covered by this perennial enemy, even in the cases of the knowledgeable many. O Arjuna, such is desire's lustful form, which rages like a quenchless firestorm. So Krishna is saying even the wise people, the most knowledgeable people also, Krishna says, their wisdom is covered. What's the use if somebody's knowledge is now having, is the person is not able to use the knowledge? What can you do? That person is as good as a fool if his knowledge is hidden. So even in the case of many wise people also, Krishna says, this knowledge is always, and it's a perennial enemy. Perennial means these enemies are always there. It's like the borders that now India's soldiers are guarding. They cannot go on vacation because permanently, the moment they turn, these like rats, they try to crawl inside. So they have to always be alert. They have to be alert. So just like that, knowledge is also covered by this permanent enemy, is what Krishna is saying. Oh Arjuna, such as desire's lustful form, it's like a storm which is not going to stop. It's like an inferno. The fire does not stop. It just keeps on burning and burning. That is the nature of this desire. Indriyani mano buddhir asyadhishthanamuchyate etair vimohayatyesha jnanamavritya dehinam. It is said, if senses occupy the governing seat, the mind and intellect, desires can cheat. Knowledge is bewildered by the sensual stimulants, and hoodwinked become the two instruments. He says if you allow your senses, your indriyas to be a driving factor, if they are the driving factor, even mind, mana and buddhi both can be cheated. Because like we see, even in the wise people, what we have sometimes we see, how did such a person do such a thing? How did this great man, how did this person was a hero, he is my idol, and next day he is done like this, even my worst enemy will not do what this person has done. Why? What happened? How did it happen? Answer is simple, we need not get so disturbed. He has allowed his kama and krodha to take control, and he's spoiled everything. There was once a great runner in Australia, double amputee runner, who wanted to run along with the able-bodied persons. He was a great hero for so many people. including myself. I was, what a great inspiration. And then I got a news that he shot his girlfriend. I was like, what? And it was horrible. And not once, so many fires have been fought. And then he tried to make it appear like it was somebody else entered inside and did all of it. Later he got caught and he went in. Now he was now a criminal behind bars. What has happened? What happened to all his physical sadhana that he did? Probably he was only doing physical sadhana, mental sadhana. He thought it's not required. But mind also is equally important. Normally, an athlete has to look after mind and body as well. But this was what? So this wise person has wasted his entire life, his entire aspiration, all his struggles, everything over what? One moment which spoiled everything. This is exactly what happens, Krishna is saying. So when you allow your indriyas to take control, when your senses, your sense-based desires take control, they take control of your mind and also your buddhi. Because even wisdom gets, fooled by these sensual stimulants. And these instruments, mana and buddhi are our instruments. We have to use them for our purpose, but they go in the wrong direction. Will a surgeon use any faulty instrument? No, because that's not going to allow the person to operate. Same thing. How can we allow our mind and buddhi to be operated by something else? Some desires cannot control. Or more practical example is, imagine, anybody can just share. If you are giving a presentation, you have prepared everything for the presentation, your slides are ready, you have been invited, so you have come one day earlier to the to that city, your venue also, hotel has been booked very close to the venue of presentation, you have got a backup pen drive, everything is perfect, ready, so you are ready with everything for the presentation. It's a very important one, a lot of people are gathering, and you have done all the right things. Only one thing is, your usual driver is not there and you've got a buffoon for a driver. The journey is not more than 10 minutes. You could go walking also if you want. It would not take you more time. You have enough time in hand. But this buffoon, instead of moving to the north, is going to the south. You're telling him, no, go to the north. Venue is this side. He says, no, no, I know a better route. And he takes you south. What is going to be the use of all the preparation, all the presentation? Is it going to be useful? Anybody? And what would be the solution you would offer to such a person? Yes, please. Is the question clear? You have a driver who is absolutely a useless driver. You want to give an important presentation. You have made all the aspects. Your knowledge is there. Your presentation skills are excellent. You've got your backup in case there's a technical malfunction also. All these aspects are looked after. Only the driver is wrong and he's taking you south instead of taking north. What will you do in this situation? Yes, please. Anybody?
We can skip the driver and we have to take our own decision.
Okay, okay. Pushpaji says we'll just change the driver only. All right. Yes, Dr. Poonamji, we're adding something?
Yeah, I was just telling that we'll convince the driver to take the right path.
No, but that driver is never going to go on the right path. What will you do in that case? Because this driver is not going to go there.
Still, you have to keep on trying and
No,
motivating
but
to.
no, if that driver is decided, no, that is a swabhava of the driver to make you not function in the right way. He's taken that motive is that to bring about your ruin. Will you allow that driver to be? What would you do in that case, Dr. Poonamji?
No, then there will be two options. Either we'll have to stop the car.
Get out of the car. Yes, ourselves. This is not what we want. We'll call our Sarthi. He will come. We'll not go to this driver. Is it not, Dr. Poonamji?
Yeah.
Yes, this is exactly when our indriyas are driven. Our senses drive. It is like having a useless driver. Diptiji wanted to add something.
No, I just want to say that there can be two kind of people here. One is that the first instinct could be getting angry at the driver. You are
Okay.
making me late,
Hmm.
and then rushing out of the car in a hurry, and
Yeah.
in all the anger, and trying to find a path
Yeah.
where the whole chaos is there. Another, as Poonamji said, is that
Convince
get out
the.
it.
Okay, get it.
If
Yeah.
the driver is not getting convinced,
Yeah.
believing that because otherwise we would have gone the first way only.
Yeah.
And then get out of the car, keep yourself calm, and then try
Yes.
go back
Ji.
to your own
Yes.
path. That's the ultimate aim.
Yes, 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 Diptiji. Because if you see desires, they are like this useless driver. No matter how much you try to, reason and tell them, no, 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 it's all right. Enough. Okay, this desire I'll fulfill. Next desire, don't come after me. let us do this work we want to do, this is why we are meant to do, let us follow. No, these desires are not going to listen. So they're just going to keep coming and taking you away. Better would be to just step out of that circle, allow some other driver who can drive you to your destination, which is a better one, which is something you want to go to also. So that is the same thing Krishna is saying. Our indriyas, if they take control, then even our mana and our buddhi, sometimes they can take that also for a ride. We cannot go ahead, and instead this will bring our own ruin. That's the most biggest danger. Why they said again, if you see Arjuna, what was this great danger Arjuna was facing? Because paradharmo bhayavaha is the same thing. What is the greatest danger for Arjuna? Loss, fight, everybody signs up. A warrior knows he's going to die someday or the other. It may end. Sometimes he says, better I die on the battlefield rather than off the battlefield. But here, this warrior is now allowing his mind and buddhi to use beautiful intellectual questions to suit what? To suit going against the means beautiful narratives. Sometimes leaders bring beautiful narratives and say, no, no, you must fight. We will fight for this cause. But what is the narrative is that a swadharma? Is it the best for everybody? That the leader has to see, because the consequence, if the leader is somebody who is not driven by desires, personal or any other desires, then he can actually look after what is the highest satya for everyone. There it is okay. Shreya, like even Nidhanam is fine if you are holding on to your desires, because the higher dharma you are following. But here it is the lower desires that are taking for a person. You allow them, you are going to destroy yourself. Krishna is ultimately saying, see, this is the reason for all the sins that people do. Don't blame God for all sins also. It is human nature. Everything has been given in human hands. We can choose. The choice is in our hands. Then why are we trying to bring some other aspect into the picture? So this aspect of raga and dvesha, that is in our hand. We cannot escape the consequences, and the consequences are only bad when we are driven by these two natures. Krishna goes on, तस्मात् तस्मात् त्वम् इन्द्रियाणि आदौ नियम्य भरतर्षभ पाप्मानं प्रजहिह्येनं ज्ञानविज्ञाननाशनम्. Therefore, know this, O mighty seeker of light, taming the senses is your first fight. So it's about taming them. Krishna is also not killing your senses. It's about taming the senses. Likes and dislikes are natural. Krishna says it's all right. You have your swabhava, but tame them. It's like having a wild horse. That wild horse has to first be tamed. Then you can use it. Otherwise, how will you use it? It is something like that. Taming your senses. Oh, so, therefore, know this, O mighty seeker of light, taming the senses is your first fight. Slay the forces that proliferate the sin. These destroyers of knowledge, conquer and win. Krishna is saying, slay these forces. These are the proliferators of sin. They are the destroyers of knowledge. Conquer over them. You become the victor, is what Krishna is saying. So, first fight for Arjuna is not against Guru Dronacharya or Bhishma or anybody from the other side. Is first Arjuna's greatest opponent is a alter ego of Arjuna only. Inside of Arjuna, this Arjuna is sitting inside with all these wrong desires which are making him go against his own mana, against his own buddhi. So he has to now slay this villain first, which is who is sitting inside. That is the first fight Krishna is telling him. Next comes a very interesting shloka. We'll probably have a look at this shloka. This will require a good deliberation as well. So these are the levels. These are the levels. Just like there are levels of awakening, there are levels of consciousness. There are four levels that Gita talks about. These are the four levels that we see. Indriyani paranyahur indriyebhyah param manaha manasastu para buddhi yo buddhehe paratastu saha. First is the level of the indriyas, meaning the level of the senses. I just probably will read the rhyme first and then look at its meaning. Beyond the senses that are supreme is the mind. So beyond the senses is the mind. As in we have our indriyas or different senses, the five senses are there. Beyond the sensory pulse, beyond the sense realm is something which is mind. Is this agreeable? Is the mind beyond the senses? Can the mind control? Yes, is everybody on the same page here? Yes? How is it then? How would you say mind is beyond the senses?
Like for example, if I tell you example of mine, I mean, I'm giving my real life example here.
Okay,
Like sometimes if my son is doing something which and I'm really getting like, I feel like scolding him
okay,
sometimes.
okay,
If he's not doing something right, and I've done so many times in the past, but then I've realized that's not the right way. So the next time when he's doing it, I'm trying to just tell myself, okay, I need to find a different way.
okay.
I just not use like not let my senses control that. Tell my mind tells them, okay, you have to calm down and not like
Okay, controlling your
that.
anger. You mean the sense of anger which comes inside, your mind helps you
Yes,
control that. Is it what,
yes,
Ditya ji?
yes,
All right,
yes.
ji, ji. So, yes, that is why they say mana is the Indra, Indra of the Indriyas, because Indriyas are going to be controlled by the mind. I have a desire to eat particular junk food. If I keep allowing that, what's going to happen to me? My health is going to get deteriorated. So, what will I have to do? My mind will have to reason and say, no, this is not good for you. You better avoid it, if not permanently, at least you can avoid it majority of the time, because it's not of any good to you. So mind can tell you. Same way, what we see with our eyes, what we speak, all this mind can control. These why these senses are held in control with what we can say mind. So yes, this much is understandable, that mind is beyond the senses. One is the realm of the senses. Those who work on the realm of the senses are the lowermost. They are the ones who are more likely to sin. It is many times rules are there which are imposed for the people who are on the level of the indriyas only. Many of us who are not on the level, are on the level of mind, need not, we don't need to be told that if you murder somebody you will be getting this punishment, and then this is being jail or hanging is not stopping us from doing wrong. But that fear is required for those minds that are still on the level, those people that are functioning on the level of the sense only. They cannot rise beyond that. But then there is this higher level, which is the higher realm of the mind. This the scientists have called a marvel of the world, the greatest human invention, I mean, human uh, capacity. All of this has been described. The mind has been, there are so many things have been talked about mind. Many people have a debate, where is the mind? Is it in the brain? Is it in the heart? Or is it in the stomach? Because then there's no neurons are there in the brain, so mind is in the brain. Then somebody comes and says, no, neurons are in the heart. There is a cardiac nervous system also. So then the mind is also in the heart, or a portion is, major portion is in the head, the major smaller portion is the heart. Then some people say, parents say, no, my child's mind is in the stomach only. The stomach is empty. The child behaves like this. It is as if stomach is directing the entire day's routine for my child. So that my child's mind is in the stomach. One more doctor will come and tell you, yes, that is also true. There is an enteric nervous system. There are neurons also. The gut connection, gut brain connection is very strong. But are these, is the mind located in this physical entity? Or we do not know. It is something that is subtle. Is it exactly in one location that you can talk in the physical point? Well, that we don't know. Mind is a mystery for many, but many mysteries are sometimes sealed and finished. And this is this, according to that. So, according to many, mind is the ultimate thing. We just don't realize it, we don't use it. But no, our Vedantic rishis recognize mind as very good for controlling the indriyas, but mind also had its limitations. Mind is limited to its logic. It is like a Raja of a finite kingdom. Means this Indriya, the realm of the Indriyas, we are human beings. We cannot see beyond what is the ultraviolet. We cannot see, we only in infrared and ultraviolet. This is, we only have a limited visual spectrum. But just because we do not see does not mean it is not there. Same is with the sound, same is with our taste, same is with our sensation. All these factors, they are limited, and so our mind processes the inputs that come in. When the input is only limited, how can it become infinite? So mind is not infinite. Mind is having its limitation. It is limited by its own logic of processing its information. This is what the Vedantic rishis understood. If then, what is if mind is limited? Is there something higher? So then, next part, Indriyanam Paranyahur, Indriyebhya Param Manaha. So, but par manasastu para buddhi. There is something higher than the mind. The Gita calls it buddhi. We will just look at it. How is it? What is it? Because in regional languages, buddhi has different meaning. Buddhi is just intelligence only, or wisdom. What is that which is higher than mind? Let us see. Beyond the mind, the awakened intelligence you find. I'll just complete the shloka, then we'll see what is this buddhi in the Gita, what is it referring to. But beyond the mind, the awakened intelligence you find. But beyond the awakened intelligence, it is thus said, it is He, the eternal Self, the Supreme Godhead. So then beyond the mind is something, and beyond that something is something called Saha. Saha in Sanskrit means that. That. What is that? Well, that is the search of the Vedantic Rishis. The day you realize that, you will say Aham Brahmasmi, and that won't be a egoistic statement. It will be a sakshatkar, it will be a realization. Why they say Tattvamasi, you are that. What is that? Well, whatever that is, we'll come to it last. Right now, we are in the level of the senses. Then comes the mind. Higher than mind, what is Gita is talking about is buddhi. There is something higher than awakened intelligence, if we want to use the word in English. Means there is something which is beyond the limits of the mind. What Sri Aurobindo has already given a big explanation about it. There's like higher mind, beyond the mind. Beyond the mind is higher mind. There is then illumined mind. Then there's something called overmind. Then there's something called supermind. So there, and then you break. He says these are not like levels. These are like spectra, and they are all interlinked. But these are ascensions, levels, all of it. Before we go to that, is the very logic of something there beyond the mind palatable? That there is something beyond the mind which can function in us. If not, you are fine. It is fine. You don't have to agree to what Krishna says. It is not something which is, Gita is not demanding anything. And we'll have to see what Krishna is going to get a response also from Arjuna. But yes, please. Can there be anything beyond the mind? Because we know mind is the highest. Yes, Srinivas ji. Yes, please. Ji, ji, ji. You are on mute, uh, Srinivas ji.
While on buddhi, there is a vivek buddhi also, what we
Okay.
call satsat vivek buddhi.
Okay.
So,
So,
so there is, I think there is again categorization of buddhi, it seems.
okay. So there is something called Sat Asat Vivek Buddhi, ability to use the mind with the right mental attitude, what is right and what is wrong. So some kind of higher state is required. Yes, that is true. But many will say that belongs to the mind only. Why are you trying to give it a separate status as well? Now, one thing is, we know mind functions according to logic. Even Sat Asat, to some extent, we can say it's a higher mind, somebody who is able to discriminate properly. But yes, anybody has had any experience that suddenly from somewhere some thought comes which breaks your logic, which breaks your general logic of understanding, but that thought has actually proved to be very, very useful in bringing about some material change. But you don't understand from where that thought comes. You say it is not from my mind. This did not come from my mind or my own understanding, because it's not in according to my swabhava also. It seems like it's come from somewhere else. Has anybody got such a moment anytime? Anybody?
I
Ji.
have got.
Ji, please, Dr. Poonam ji. Please, yes, please. If you can share, it would be wonderful for all of us. Ji.
You know, I'm a doctor by
Ji.
profession.
Ji, ji.
Sometimes we get many problems. We
Huh.
don't reach a diagnosis.
Ji, ji, ji,
We
ji.
know what is happening. Everything is there. You get investigations done. We have symptoms, signs. The lab reports are also there. But still something is missing, and I don't know what's the problem.
Ji.
Especially I'm in blood banking, and
Ha
the
ha.
blood is not matching, and something is
Ha
there. And
ha.
then you keep on thinking. You refer to the books,
Ha ha.
and suddenly you are sitting, and something just
Clicks.
clicks.
Okay.
We get this done,
Ha ha.
and I have got that done, and
Uh,
it is done.
okay, it helped to
I
reach the
did
diagnosis.
this 3-4 times.
3, 4 times. Okay.
Yeah.
And
With complicated cases where
ha
I'm
ha.
not finding a solution, my mind is not working. I talk to my friends also,
Ji, ji.
and then you're sitting and something clicks.
Something clicks. And Dr. Poonamji, those moments, if you look at those moments, what is your emotional state somehow a little balanced, that you're able to look at it?
Yes.
Is a
You're sitting alone. You're just thinking,
ha ha.
and somehow, and I have no inclination that it could be
It
this.
could be this. It was just random. Just it's like do not even
Yes,
call it
and
random.
something is inspiring.
Ha.
That why don't we get this done?
Okay. And it
You
turns
can,
out to be the game changer, is it not? Ji
yes,
ji
yes.
ji. So
At
that
least 3-4 times I have
so that is
experienced.
a very special experience, and it is something yogis are able to get that experience many often times. So they kind of go to that state of consciousness, because at certain points we are receptive to things which are higher than the mind. As and Dr. Punamji has shared, I'll probably share one or two examples which participants only had shared previous batches. One more was from a doctor only, again in the hospital. So many times they have to rely on, because the system sometimes pressures them so much. So many protocols are there, they have to follow. This was an anesthetist, a junior resident only, and she was working with the seniors. They were not finding the case. Probably is the main reason why this is happening. And that, as Dr. Puramji said, if you don't have the diagnosis, you're not able to go in the line of treatment also. So investigations after investigations are taking place. Now this doctor, she I don't know what happened. She suddenly felt, no, let us do this test. She went and talked to her superior. The superior said, no, it's not required. Then she got
Correct.
quiet. She got quiet, but then she suddenly still had that continuous nagging feeling. She just went. She convinced her technician, please do this for me. Please do this test for me. And that person also somehow went out of the way and did that test. The moment that test report came, they understood, yes, this is it. But she says, in my entire, I got no sign, or there was no description to do this test for such a particular case, or such as these aspects do not warrant that investigation. But I just felt like doing that, and she says that helped. So here we see that yes, there is something. This is what we call intuition. Deepti ji wants to share something. All right. Yes, please.
Can we call this like an instinct?
Instinct, or we call it intuition. It comes from somewhere.
See, I have an example. I don't know how realistic
Okay.
it is in this
Ji.
case, but I remember when I was in my 10th grade,
Okay.
I very clearly remember that I was reading a subject, and there was a topic which I was not able to understand, a particular thing in that topic. And I was like, if this comes in the exam, tomorrow is my board exam, what am I going to do? Because there was something which I was stuck for the whole year.
Okay.
I could not understand it like clearly to like introspect it and then put it on the paper.
Ji.
And then I went to sleep, and I don't know, I remember it was like around 4 o'clock in the morning,
Mm-hmm.
and something clicked in, and I don't, I woke up and I thought, I understood it.
Okay.
Sometimes we think that it
Yeah.
goes in our head, it's going all the time in our head. I
Yeah.
really understood it, and you won't believe that question came in the
Appeared.
exam. It appeared, and I did it so well. I mean,
Okay.
I told to my teacher, this is what I was feeling, and then I told, this is what the answer I gave, and he was like, you were absolutely right about the answer. So something clicked in. I
Something
don't
which
know
is
what.
beyond the logic of mind. No, it's not
Yeah,
something
yeah,
we
yeah.
can.
But I did not understand it throughout the
Okay.
year. I mean,
Ji,
like
ji.
some get the details of it, but
All
in my
right.
sleep, I just
Ji, ji.
this is it. Like, I
Okay.
understand.
Ji, ji. Thank you, Adipti ji, for sharing. Srinivas ji wants to add something. Yes, please. Ji, sir.
See, normally when we keep on brooding on certain issues, so you get back to the right conclusion. But at times, what happens in my one of my experience I would like to share. I was working in my laboratory,
Ji.
and I was finding a filtration operation very difficult to achieve. The
Okay.
results were not coming, and for getting the results, the instrument that was required, that was very costly.
Okay.
So I was just got frustrated, and I said, okay, let us forget it. I will
Hmm.
go for playing.
Ah.
So I went out for playing table tennis, and
Hmm.
while playing, suddenly a solution dawned upon me.
Okay.
I was not at all thinking about it,
Okay.
and
Ji.
it was costing nothing as
Okay.
compared to
The
what I
other.
was thinking.
Ji, ji, ji.
And I was surprised that I was not at all thinking about it, and how come this all of a sudden I got this
And it
solution,
helped. But that solution was changed.
and
It,
it
the
helped,
thought
and it
changed so
worked
much.
wonderful, and it
Ji.
worked wonderful.
Ji, ji, ji. So again, so wonderful. Srinivas ji is also. We are having so nice. We got experiences shared. Buddha, there's a quote attributed to him. I don't know if it's actually Gautam Buddha's quote, but it's a beautiful quote which says, we are just a spark away from realization. We don't know that spark, and what is that? That comes from somewhere else. Poets understand it, artists understand that. They say, no, it comes from elsewhere. Yesterday, I met a very senior poet, Dr. Anand Kumar. He was saying a poet is not even his poem. He gets it from elsewhere. People should not praise a poet for his poem, because the person may not be following. We'll say this is the beautiful poem of this person who is written, but what is that person in real life? He may be a completely different thing, because it comes from somewhere. This aspect, one more last example, probably we'll look at one more experience which one participant shared. She runs a cafe in Pondicherry, named Dhaba Cafe, and she had attended the session. And she said, after finishing her work, she came home after her completion of duties as usual. There was nothing very extraordinary that particular day. And after her day, she likes to wind down in front of the TV and just watch a particular serial. So she was just watching that, and her neighbor was going upstairs. She would see from the window. This is a daily scene. It happens every single day. It is not something which is suddenly extraordinary. Suddenly, she got a feeling, go and check on the neighbor. And she was like, no, I'm watching the TV. She fought with that feeling. She said, no, I don't know. She's like, why should I go? Is going. What is there? But that nagging feeling was continuously irritating her inside. And she said, fine, at least I'll become free. I can watch the TV at peace. So she turns off the TV, mutes it, and then goes out to see. And she's shocked. Her neighbor has collapsed on the stair. She's collapsed on the stairs, and there's nobody to take. And then she calls the ambulance, and she's reached, that neighbor has reached the hospital at the right time. Doctor also says, good thing you brought this person now, or else we may not have been able to save that person. And just look at it. She says, even now I shudder to think, if I had not gone that time, I don't know what I would have told myself. But she says, I still don't know, she says, from where this came from somewhere, this thought. She says, I just went to shut those thoughts. I didn't want to get disturbed by them, so I acted upon it. Otherwise I would not have acted upon it. So this is something. This is a state of consciousness which comes from higher state. And in the Upanishads, there are actually, again, we have one more Upanishad. I think it is the Isha only, which talks about four states. There's a state of the Kavi, then there's the Manishi, there's the Paribhu, and the Swayambhu. If we want to relate it to this particular shloka, we can say Kavi is that not the Kavi of the poet of in Hindi or any other regional languages, because in Rigveda, Agni is called the Kavi and the Kratu. He is the doer, he is the seer. It's like he gets, Kavi means that person who is getting glimpses of something which is beyond those higher, like something like oracle or something like that. So this is the first, where Kavi is, that is the first stage of consciousness, meaning you are going to get glimpses, sudden thoughts, sudden random ideas. Then the rishis, some of them are able to not just get it in glimpse, they're able to get it in not the trickle, it is like a continuous flow which is coming to some of them. So they go to the next level, we can call it Manishi. Manishi, this is just my interpretation, of course, in connection with this verse. Manishi is, one second, Hemanji, I'll just mute. Yeah. So Manishi is not just getting a what we can say glimpse or a trickle, the person is actually getting like a blueprint. An entire blueprint is not just one random thought, it's an entire blueprint of what's going to happen. That is the next state of consciousness. Next after Manishi is something called Paribhu. Means yes, getting blueprint is fine, but who is going to bring the, even building construction you get the blueprint. But from the blueprint to the building, there's such a big gap. Constructing a building, people say this is one of the things you must do in life to get an experience. They say this cannot, unless you do that, you will not know all the troubles that come, because manifestation of a divine idea, this is where the next state of Manishi is Paribhu. He is able to bring it into practice. A materialization is taking place. And then they say the highest stage is that Swayambhu, meaning now new ideas are going to be born from this individual only. He has become one with that divine consciousness. So there are forces, there are levels which have to be ascended. And so if you look at this shloka of the Gita, first is the Indriyas. Indriyas are there. Higher than Indriyas is the mind. Higher than the mind is something what is called Buddhi in the Gita. And higher than Buddhi is something that is called Saha. Sanskrit, you Google the dictionary of Sanskrit, Saha, what is this highest thing? It is just that. How can that mean everything? But that is that. Tattvam-asi is that Satya, that highest, that is. So there is something higher, meaning to say that we need not get lost in this circle also of trying to, individually try to go into this. Let the recognize the supreme owner. Isha Vasya Midam Sarvam is the Upanishad. Recognize the supreme highest. There is some supreme. Even that realization, then let the supreme raise you, give you what siddhis you want, what he wants rather than what you want, and what is required for your progress. So when you have to get the glimpse, let the divine, let your ego not come in the way. But that is the highest state. Indriyas, then mind, then higher than mind is the buddhi, and higher than buddhi is that supreme consciousness. Krishna is suddenly talking now about the supreme divine Vedantic truth. Arjuna is going to have a problem accepting all of this. That is clear. We'll stop with the last shloka of this adhyaya. Third adhyaya gets completed with this. Krishna says, Evam buddhehe param buddhva संस्तभ्यात्मानमात्मना जहि शत्रुम महाबाहो kamarupam durasadam. With this knowledge of the Supreme Self assailing your mind and intellect, gather yourself. O mighty armed one, this formidable enemy you must slay, destroy desire, for truth's light to make way. So Krishna says, destroy desire for the light of truth to manifest in your life. He says, this is the formidable enemy. Use this knowledge. This is the last question I'll ask before we complete. How does this knowledge of the Supreme Existence help us? Krishna is saying, use this knowledge to slay and destroy. Just destroy the this great Shatru inside. How can this knowledge of the divine help you? Or this knowledge of the levels which Krishna has talked about, consciousness, how can they help you in destroying desire? Krishna says, use this knowledge, let this knowledge be your weapon to destroy the pull of desire. This adhyaya is that way completed. This is the 43rd shloka. Yes, please. Or if we'll conclude with the Shanti mantra and then you can just think over in the meantime and then probably we can look at it. And if you're able, we wish to share something, we can talk then. I'll conclude with the Shanti mantra now, but then we can look at the question of how this knowledge can help us. Hari Om. Sarve bhavantu sukhinah, sarve santu niramayah, sarve bhadrani pashyantu, ma kaschid dukkha bhag bhavet. Hari Om Tat Sat. Krishna Mande Jagat Guru. Om Shanti Shanti. So yes, please. This knowledge, how do you think, or do we need to introspect some more on it and get back tomorrow? So then probably we'll probably wait for that. Tomorrow we'll look at this. We can just think over how this, because this knowledge Krishna is saying will help you. Oh Mahabahu, it will help you destroy desire and let truth's light manifest. That these are the levels. Indriya is there higher than Indriya. Manasastu Parabuddhi, and then the Supreme. Even Supreme is mentioned ultimately. Why, we can probably look at it maybe later on. Anybody has any other queries or anything you wish to talk about? You are welcome now, or we can conclude the session. Yes.
I, I wanted to say
Yes, Deep.
that at times a thought is not nagging,
Okay.
but you are led to do that, and you
Okay.
realize, oh yes, it's so nice that suddenly you did that. I mean,
Okay.
that also happens.
So you're driven by Milan Ji is saying. Okay. Yes, Ji. So sometimes you are driven. You don't realize it's like you're being driven to do some works, and that realization comes after the work is done. Is it, Milan Ji?
Yes, 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 yes.
Okay, that is also a wonderful joy. It's like you're walking and while walking, only the stairway is being built as you walk. You don't even know it is happening, and then you turn back and then you see. Yes, that is also interesting. Yes, Deep. All right. Yes, sir. So these are all higher than mind moments. So mind is not everything. What we have been taught many times, mind is everything. No, mind is having its limitation. There is something higher than mind. Probably we can look at that. We can introspect on that. Then after that we can probably implement also, if we can introspect and then understand that higher than mind is there, but again there is something highest, Saha is there. So why that is also important? Why did Krishna have to talk about the highest as well? Probably we'll see that tomorrow before we begin with the next adhyaya. All right, Ji. Hari Om. Any queries are there, you are welcome, or we'll conclude with the we'll conclude it. Yes, please, if there are no queries.